Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Bible Study for Overthinkers. I am your host, Jackie Espada, and tonight, we are going to be getting into the rest of First Samuel. I feel like I left you guys hanging. I started First Samuel before I left, and then, obviously had some traveling along the ways and cancellations of Bible study, so I apologize for that. And I appreciate you guys for your continued prayers, and, like I said, continued, because we're not out of the clear just yet. So, thank you guys again for constantly praying for me and my family, and allowing me space to be able to cancel a few shows here and there. So I appreciate it, and I'm glad to be back with you guys tonight. Before we get into it, I wanted to ask you guys if you would please be so kind as to hit that thumbs up, share this show out with a friend, let them know that we are here on a Thursday night, having Bible study, digging into the Old Testament, which has been a lot of fun, to be honest. So if you guys have been enjoying this and you want to share this out with other people, please feel free to do that. And let's get into our sponsors for this show. I am super excited because I don't think I have shared this with you guys just yet, at least not like in a live capacity, but like face to face almost. But I have reached out to the ladies at In His Word, and they are in the process of creating us a Bible study for Overthinkers shirt, or I don't know what they're creating just yet, but they are in the process of designing our shirt design, whether it be a shirt or a hoodie or a long sleeve shirt. I don't know what yet, but very early stages of planning, and I am so excited to hopefully bring you that here in the next few weeks, and hopefully in time for Christmas. Well, definitely in time for Christmas. As far as everything working out, I have a feeling that that'll be the case. So make sure to thank them, and in the process, you guys can absolutely start looking at their website, because they have great new designs that they are constantly putting out. So make sure to check out In His Word and use my code Jackie Espada. I'm so excited to tell you about In His Word, a woman-owned, family-run Christian brand from the Pacific Northwest. Three sisters and their mom started this business out of their kitchen, creating faith-based apparel and home goods designed to keep us rooted in God's Word. Every design is prayed over, crafted by hand, and made with the mission of helping you carry Scripture into your everyday life. Whether it's a bold reminder or something more subtle that keeps your heart steady, you can shop their collection at inhisword.us and use my code Jackie Espada for $10 off orders over $70. That's inhisword.us. Faith you can wear and carry wherever you go. We love them and we appreciate them, and I'm so excited and can't wait to see what they create for us. Of course, you can also, while you're sporting your In His Word, you can also be drinking a cup of coffee. So make sure to also load up on some Loaded Gun and use my code to save yourself some money and support what I'm doing here in the process. This episode is fueled by Loaded Gun Coffee, veteran-owned, small batch roasted, and bold enough to actually taste as strong as it smells. They're all about quality over gimmicks, and every bag is roasted to order, so it's fresh when it hits your doorstep. You can grab your favorite roast at loadedguncoffee.com and use code Jackie Espada for 10% off your order. Support small business, drink bold, and start your day the clean way with Loaded Gun Coffee. We, like I said, love Loaded Gun around here, so make sure to also sign up, get yourself some of their coffee, and also, like I said, sport your In His Word at the same time. So, let's pick up where we have left off. We last finished and last covered 1 Samuel 1 through 7. So we saw Hannah's prayer. We saw Samuel's calling as a boy. We have the ark's disastrous capture and eventual triumphant return. We have a genuine hard-won victory at Mizpah after real national repentance. And then Samuel closed that section as a faithful, active judge, riding a circuit between Bethel, Gilgal, and Mizpah, doing his job well. this next stretch is where everything starts to shift. We have Israel asking, well, about to ask for something they were never supposed to need. And of course, that is a king like all the other nations, and they get exactly what they asked for. We're going to watch Saul, who becomes the king, rise from complete obscurity to this throne. He gets a real shot at being a great king, and then, remarkably fast, he blows it in a way that seals his fate, ultimately. This is a story about what happens when you get exactly what you wanted and it turns out to cost you more than you expected. So this is First Samuel. We're going to read 8 through 13 today. So that is what we are going to be covering. Like I said, I'm just so excited to be back with you guys. So make sure to also follow along if you want to. Of course, I am reading from the She Reads Truth Bible. This is the Christian Standard Bible. You guys can get it on my Amazon storefront and soon in my TikTok shop. So that is another way. If you guys are TikTok shop like people, let me know, because I'm in the process of really getting into that. It's another money stream that I can potentially make big money on. So hopefully, God is opening doors. I know that he's opening doors, and hopefully these are avenues that I could really start making my business more and more profitable. So appreciate you guys. And of course, if you want to buy anything on Amazon, you can shop by using the link in the description of this show, and anything that you purchase, whether it be, something that is on my actual storefront, or, you just making your regular monthly purchases, which again, I truly appreciate. Every little bit counts. And, I just appreciate you guys for always thinking of me whenever you're shopping, and, just supporting what I'm trying to do here. So thanks again. And, why don't we jump right in, right? Where you guys came here for some Bible study, and we're going to jump right in. Chapter 8. It literally, it starts off not very well for the people, because they're going to start asking for things. And it literally, the title of it says Israel's demand for a king. So let's see. We're going to go ahead and jump right in. 1 Samuel 8. Is where we're starting, like I said. So, when Samuel grew old, he appointed his sons as judges over Israel. His firstborn son's name was Joel, and his second was Abijah. They were judges in Beersheba. However, his sons did not walk in his ways. They turned toward dishonest profit, took bribe, and perverted justice. So all the elders of Israel gathered together and went to Samuel at Ramah. They said to him, "Look, you are old, and your sons do not walk in your ways. Therefore, appoint a king to judge us the same as all the other nations have." So, Samuel, he's older, he appoints his sons, Joel and Abijah, as judges over Israel. And they're based out of Beersheba. But, just like Eli's sons before them, they don't follow their father's example, and they start turning toward dishonest gain and taking bribes and perverting justice. So the elders of Israel gather and go to Samuel, and they tell him, "Look, man, you're old now, and your sons are not following your example. Can we appoint a king or a judge, or no, a king to judge us the same as the other nations have?" So it's worth noticing now, this isn't really a new problem. Eli's corrupt sons, Samuel's corrupt sons, it's the same failure pattern showing up twice in a row now. But the elders' actual solution, wanting a king, like all the other nations, is the biggest red flag here, since Israel was never supposed to define itself by looking like everyone else. Remember, they're supposed to be set apart. They're supposed to lead by example and rely on God alone. Well, they're not doing that. They're looking at everybody else and like, wait, we want what they have. So let's see what God has to say about that. This is verse 6 now. When they said, "Give us a king to judge us," Samuel considered their demand wrong, so he prayed to the Lord. But the Lord told him, Listen to the people and everything they say to you. They have not rejected you. They have rejected me as their king. They are doing the same thing to you that they have done to me, since the day that I brought them out of Egypt until to this day, abandoning me and worshiping other gods. Listen to them, but solemnly warn them and tell them about the customary rights of the king who will reign over them. So, Samuel takes their demand as sinful, and he takes it personally. But he prays to the Lord about it. And I think that's huge. He could have easily, been butthurt about it and just, not done anything for them. But he goes to God, and God's response reframes the whole situation. He says, listen to the people and everything that they say to you. They're not rejecting you. What they're rejecting is me as their king. So God goes further and connects this moment to Israel's entire history of unfaithfulness. He says they are doing the same thing to you that they have done to me, and since the day I brought them out of Egypt until this day, abandoning me and worshiping other gods. Again, this is not a new pattern. It's the same old pattern, wearing a brand new outfit. God still tells Samuel to listen to them, though, and grant them their request, but with a catch. He tells them to warn them first, solemnly, and we'll see exactly what he says about exactly what a king will actually cost them. So, let's see what God says the cost of a king is. This is verse 10. Samuel told all the Lord's words to the people who were asking him for a king. He said, "These are the rights of the king who will reign over you. He will take your sons and put them in his chariots, on his horses, or running in front of his chariots. He can appoint them to his use as commanders of thousands or commanders of fifties, to plow his ground and reap his harvest, or to make his weapons of war and the equipment for his chariots. He can take your daughters to become perfumers, cooks, and bakers. He can take your best fields, vineyards, and olive orchards and give them to his servants. He can take 1/10 of your grain and your vineyard and give them to his officials and servants. He can take your male servants, your female servants, your best cattle, and your donkeys and use them for his work. He can take 1/10 of your flocks, and you yourselves can become his servants. When that day comes, you will cry out because of the king you've chosen for yourselves, but the Lord won't answer you on that day." And I don't know if you guys could hear that, but there is thunder now. And I agree. God is not happy. God, he gives them a warning in full, and it's very detailed and very specific. He says a king will take their daughters for his chariots, his cavalry, and to run in front of him. He'll appoint them as commanders and set them to plow his fields and reap his harvest, or make weapons or chariot equipment. Then he'll take their daughters to be perfumers and cooks and bakers. He's going to seize all of their fields, their best fields, vineyards, and olive orchards, and hand them to his own officials. But he'll also tax 1/10 of the grain and the vineyards, and take their own servants and best young men and donkeys for his own work. Tax 1/10 of their flock too, and eventually you yourselves can become his servants. And the final line that was kind of chilling was, he says, "When that day comes, you will cry out because of the king you've chosen for yourselves, but the Lord won't answer you on that day." This right here is not some type of vague caution. No, this is an itemized list of exactly what monarchy is going to cost them personally and materially, delivered before they get what they're even asking for. So they have to think long and hard about this. And we'll see what they decide now. And this is how we will close chapter 8. So this is chapter 8, verse 19. And it says, "The people refused to listen to Samuel. 'No,' they said, 'we must have a king over us. Then we'll be like all the other nations. Our king will judge us, go out before us, and fight our battles.'" I don't like this because that sounds like what God is supposed to do. And it's true. Like before, God was saying, these people, they're not rejecting you as a king. They're rejecting me as their king. And, I mean, that's basically, that confirms it right there. Verse 21, Samuel listened to all the people's words and then repeated them to the Lord. Listen to them, the Lord told Samuel. Appoint a king for them. Then Samuel told the men of Israel, each of you go back to your city. So despite the detailed warning, they're like, I want the king. Give me the king, you know? And God said, okay, let them have their king. But there's something worth sitting here. They've just heard in specific detail exactly what this will cost them, and their response doesn't address a single point in the warning. Then they just repeat their original desire louder. We want to be just like everyone else, and we want a king to fight for us instead of trusting God to. And that's huge because I feel like a lot of us are still doing that. I know I do it from time to time, but I feel like a lot of us are still doing that. We're finding other things to kind of, to fight for us and put our trust in, when the only thing that we should be doing is trusting and believing in God. So there's that. But that is chapter 8. That is chapter 8. And it's setting us up for the introduction of a king. And this king is, of course, King Saul. So let's see who he is and what this guy's all about. So here we go. Saul, this is chapter 9. And Saul is anointed as king. So here's what it says. There was a prominent man of Benjamin named Kish, son of Abiel. I think that's how you say it. Son of Zeror, son of Bechorath, son of Aphiah, son of a Benjaminite. He had a son named Saul, an impressive young man. There was no one more impressive among the Israelites than he. He stood a head taller than anyone else. One day the donkeys of Saul's father Kish wandered off. Kish said to his son Saul, "Take one of the servants with you and go look for the donkeys." Saul and his servant went through the hill country of Ephraim and then through the region of Shalisha, and they didn't find them. They went through the region of Shaalim, nothing. Then they went through the Benjaminite region, but still didn't find them. When they came to the land of Zuph, Saul said to the servant who was with him, "Come on, let's go back, or my father will stop worrying about the donkeys and start worrying about us." "Look," the servant said, "there's a man of God in this city who is highly respected. Everything he says is sure to come true. Let's go there now. Maybe he'll tell us which way we should go." "Suppose we do go," Saul said to his servant. "What do we take the man? The food from our packs is gone, and there's no gift to take to the man of God. What do we have?" The servant answered Saul, "Here, I have a little silver. I'll give it to the man of God, and he will tell us which way we will go." Formerly, in Israel, a man who was going to inquire of God would say, "Come, let's go to the seer," for the prophet of today was formerly called the seer. "Good," Saul replied to his servant. "Come on, let's go." So they went to the city where the man of God was. So, apologize for that phone call. I'll have to text my brother back and let him know that I am doing something right now. So let me do that real quick. I thought I had covered all my bases and let everybody know that I was doing something. Okay. Okay. So that should be covered. All right. So chapter 9. We're introduced to Saul now. Like I said, Saul is now part of the story, and he is a son of Kish from the tribe of Benjamin, and he's described as impressive. He is standing a head taller than anyone else in Israel, and his father's donkeys happen to wander off, and Kish sends Saul with a servant to track them down. They search everywhere, through the hill country of Ephraim. They go through all these different places, and they find nothing. They're basically ready to give up and go home, and his father starts worrying about him instead of the donkeys. So Saul's attendants suggest maybe they should take a detour and go find a highly respected man of God, who every their every word comes true. So maybe if they'll go, he'll be able to tell them where the donkeys are, right? Saul, though, is worried about not having an offering as a gift. And he learns, though, that his attendant has a small piece of silver. And so they're like, great, let's go see this guy to figure out what he's going to say, right? But little do they know, this seer that they're going to go see is Samuel. And he's already talked to God. And God already let him know what was going to happen. So let's see. Let's see what it says. Verse 11 of chapter 9 is where we are. As they were climbing the hill to the city, they found some young women coming out to draw water and asked, "Is the seer here?" The woman answered, "Yes, he is ahead of you. Hurry, he just now entered the city, because there's a sacrifice for the people at the high place today. As soon as you enter the city, you will find him before he goes to the high place to eat. The people won't eat until he comes because he must bless the sacrifice. After that, the guests can eat. Go up immediately. You can find him now." So they went up toward the city. Saul and his servant were entering the city when they saw Samuel coming toward them on his way to the high place. Now, the day before Saul's arrival, the Lord had informed Samuel, "At this time tomorrow I will send you a man from the land of Benjamin. Anoint him ruler over my people Israel. He will save them from the Philistines, because I have seen the affliction of my people, for their cry has come to me." When Samuel saw Saul, the Lord told him, "Here is the man I told you about. He will govern my people." So there you go. This is the thing. Saul does not know that Samuel knows. We as the readers know. And this obviously to Saul looks like a random errand and, that has gone slightly sideways. But from our vantage point, we see that it's like a carefully arranged divine appointment that Saul has no idea that he's walking into. So I think this is, the way that the Bible is structured and all of that, it's pretty cool to see these kinds of connections like this where we're able to, kind of get insight on different things before it's actually mentioned to the characters in the story. So that is where we are. Verse 18. And actually this is where chapter 9 is a shorter chapter, so we'll read through the rest of chapter 9 together now. So here we go. This is, like I said, chapter 9, verse 18. Saul approached Samuel in the city gate and asked, "Would you please tell me where the seer's house is?" "I am the seer," Samuel answered. "Go up ahead of me to the high place and eat with me today. When I send you off in the morning, I'll tell you everything that's in your heart. As for the donkeys that wandered away from you 3 days ago, don't worry about them, because they've been found. And who does all Israel desire but you and your father's family?" Saul responded, "Am I not a Benjaminite from the smallest of Israel's tribes? And isn't my clan the least important of all the clans of the Benjaminite tribe? So why have you said something like this to me?" Samuel took Saul and his servant, brought them to the banquet hall, and gave them a place at the head of the 30 or so men who had been invited. Then Samuel said to the cook, "Get the portion of meat that I gave you and told you to set aside." The cook picked up the thigh and what was attached to it and set it before Saul. Then Samuel said, "Notice that the reserved piece is set before you. Eat it, because it was saved for you for this solemn event at the time I said, 'I've invited the people.'" So Saul ate with Samuel that day. Afterward, they went down from the high place to the city, and Samuel spoke with Saul on the roof. They got up early, and just before dawn, Samuel called Saul on the roof. "Get up, and I'll send you on your way." Saul got up, and both he and Samuel went outside. As they were going down to the edge of the city, Samuel said to Saul, "Tell the servant to go on ahead of us, but you stay for a while, and I'll reveal the word of God to you." So the servant went on. So now this is a little surprising little invitation here, right? So Saul approaches Samuel. He doesn't recognize him and simply asks where the seer's house is, or the prophet. Samuel identifies himself and immediately invites Saul to go and eat with him and stay the night, promising to tell him everything that's in your heart in the morning. He also reassures him the donkeys that you were looking for, they've already been found and you don't need to worry about them anymore. Then Samuel drops something bigger on Saul. He says, "Who does all Israel desire but you and your father's family?" That's a big question. And Saul's response is genuinely humble. And honestly, maybe even a little confused. He says, "Am I not a Benjaminite from the smallest of Israel's tribes? And isn't my clan the least important of all the clans of the Benjaminite tribe? Why have you said something like this to me?" And Samuel brings Saul to the feast and gives him the biggest and the highest place of honor, the reserved cut of meat, which is a piece of a thigh, which if we talked about in extensive, we've talked about it again and again, how important the thigh is. And that piece of meat is specifically set aside in advance for this exact moment. Meaning Samuel had already planned this hospitality way before Saul even arrived. So Saul and Samuel talk a little bit more, and Samuel gets up early the next morning to send him off, asking the attendant to go ahead of him so that he can speak to Saul alone. And I thought this was cool language. He says, "I'll reveal the word of God to you." You know, that's pretty cool. You know, Samuel deliberately arranges a private moment to tell Saul what's really happening and why this whole thing is going on. So it's pretty cool. This, I think, I love to see the story evolve. And I will forewarn you now, we're not going to be ending on a happy note today, unfortunately. Chapter 13 kind of it leaves us with a little bit of a cliffhanger. And I kind of did that intentionally so that you guys would come back to the next Bible study. But, of course, we see God starting to work. Obviously, Samuel is doing everything in his way, because, well, not his way, but he knows that he has to have a relationship with God, because if not, then you're not going to win. That's what happened when we were the last time. They didn't consult with God first, and God didn't deliver a victory. Once they consulted God first, then they got a victory. So, same thing here, sort of. God explicitly ties Saul's calling to hearing and responding to Israel's cry for help now, right? So, and actually we see that exact language here. Where is it? "I have seen the affliction of my people, for their cry has come to me." There you go. He's already telling you. But yes, that's where we are. We're going to jump into chapter 10 now. Chapter 10, we're cruising right along. And chapter 10, we're going to see the private moment between Samuel and Saul, which was a good one. So, here we go. Chapter 10. Samuel took the flask of oil, poured it out on Samuel's head, kissed him, and said, "Hasn't the Lord anointed you ruler over his inheritance? Today, when you leave me, you'll find 2 men at Rachel's grave at Zelzah in the territory of Benjamin. They will say to you, 'The donkeys you went looking for have been found, and now your father has stopped being concerned about the donkeys and is worried about you, asking, "What should I do about my son?" You will proceed from there until you come to the oak of Tabor. 3 men going up to God at Bethel will meet you there. 1 bringing 3 goats, 1 bringing 3 loaves of bread, and 1 bringing a clay jar of wine. They will ask how you are and give you 2 loaves of bread, which you will accept from them. After that, you will come to Gibeah of God, where there are Philistine garrisons. When you arrive at the city, you will meet a group of prophets coming down from the high place prophesying. They will be preceded by harps, tambourines, flutes, and lyres. The Spirit of the Lord will come powerfully on you, and you will prophesy with them, and you will be transformed. When these signs have happened to you, do whatever your circumstances require, because God is with you. Afterward, go ahead of me to Gilgal. I will come to you to offer burnt offerings and to sacrifice fellowship offerings. Wait 7 days until I come to you and show you what to do. So, these are instructions that Samuel gives to Saul. But before he does that, Samuel pours oil on Saul's head. He kisses him and asks, "Hasn't the Lord anointed you ruler over his inheritance?" And he then gives Saul a series of, like I said, specific predictions meant to confirm everything. You know, talking about the men that he'll meet at Rachel's grave, telling him about the donkeys, the 3 men going to worship at Bethel, who will give him 2 loaves of bread and a group of prophets coming down from the high place with instruments prophesying. And then the Spirit of the Lord will take control of Saul so that he prophesies with them and is transformed into a different person. So that is, giving them 3 separate confirming events. And then this is, he will be transformed. This is real change, right? This is that's what's being described here in Saul. So then Samuel instructs Saul that once these signs happen, to do whatever the situation requires because God is with him. So this, I feel like that may be a little like a sticky, that could be kind of interpreted a different way. Like you can do a little bit of self-interpretation there and it may not turn out as well for Saul if he does that. But we'll see that in a second, I think. So then he also tells Saul to go down ahead and go to Gilgal, wait there for 7 days for Samuel to arrive, and then he'll show him what to do next. So this is a detail that is going to matter later. So he says to go and wait for him for 7 days. He doesn't say when he's going to come, but he says that he's going to come. So here, just put a pin in that for now. We will, like I said, come back to that in just a second. So verse 9 is where we are now. Verse 9 of chapter 10, verse 9. So here we go. When Saul turned to leave Samuel, God changed his heart, and all the signs came about that day. When Saul and his servants arrived at Gibeah, a group of prophets met him. When the Spirit of God came powerfully on him, and he prophesied along with them. Everyone who knew him previously and saw him prophesy with the prophets asked each other, "What has happened to the son of Kish? Is Saul also among the prophets?" Then a man who was from there asked, "And who is their father?" As a result, "Is Saul also among the prophets?" became a popular saying when then Saul prophesying. I'm going to go back and read that because that was bad. As a result, "Is Saul also among the prophets?" became a popular saying. Then Saul finished prophesying and went to the high place. Saul's uncle asked him and his servant, "Where did you go?" "To look for the donkeys," Saul answered. When we saw they weren't there, we went to Samuel. "Tell me," Saul's uncle asked, "what did Samuel say to you?" Saul told him. He assured us the donkeys had been found. However, Saul did not tell him about what Samuel had said about the matter of kingship. Wow, I don't know why I wasn't able to read that, but I'll do better. I got plenty of more reading opportunities. But yeah, all the signs that Samuel tells Saul in private when he does that whole oil pouring ceremony come true. And when Saul and his attendant arrive back in Gibeah, they encounter a group of prophets. Spirit of God takes control of him, and he prophesies right alongside with them. So people who knew him, and it's funny because I feel like a lot of people kind of say that about modern people when they have an encounter with God and start to feel him, and they'll say, is Saul also among the prophets? You know, this becomes enough of a shock that it turns into a popular saying. So that's how much of a transformation Saul has really had. And then, so when Saul's uncle asks where he's been, Saul then tells him about the donkeys, but deliberately leaves out the part about the kingship because he's keeping that privacy between him and Samuel. So I can appreciate that. Let's see if that holds on true though. All right, let's go ahead and finish up chapter 10, and then we'll pause for a quick break. So chapter 10, verse 17. So this is now Saul received as king. So let's see what it says. Samuel summoned the people to the Lord at Mizpah and said to the Israelites, "This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. I brought Israel out of Egypt, and I rescued you from the power of the Egyptians and all the kingdoms that were oppressing you. But today you have rejected your God, who saves you from all your troubles and afflictions. You said to him, 'You must set a king over us.' Now, therefore, present yourselves before the Lord by your tribes and clans." Samuel had all the tribes of Israel come forward, and the tribe of Benjamin was selected. Then he had the tribe of Benjamin come forward by its clans, and the Matrite clan was selected. Finally, Saul, son of Kish, was selected. But when they searched for him, they could not find him. They again inquired of the Lord, "Has the man come here yet?" The Lord replied, "There he is, hidden among the supplies." They ran and got him from there. When he stood among the people, he stood a head taller than anyone else. Samuel said to all the people, "Do you see the one the Lord has chosen? There is no one like him among the entire population." And all the people shouted, "Long live the king!" Samuel proclaimed to the people the rights of kingship. He wrote them on a scroll which he placed in the presence of the Lord. Then Samuel sent all the people home. Saul also went to his home in Gibeah, and brave men whose hearts God had touched went with him. But some wicked men said, "How can this guy save us?" They despised him and did not bring him a gift, but Saul said nothing. So, a lot there, a lot to talk about. Now, Samuel gathers Israel and delivers a reminder to them, letting them know that, today you have rejected your God, who saves you from all your troubles. Then the process unfolds by tribe, then by clan, until finally Saul is selected. But when they go to find him, he's nowhere to be found. So they inquire of God again and learn that he's hiding among the supplies. So they pull Saul out and stand him among the people, and he is a full head taller than everybody else, which again, they're emphasizing his physical stature to let everybody know, he is definitely set apart. So he's like I said, a full head taller than everyone else. So then Samuel presents him, and they're like, "Let's go! Long live the king!" And Samuel then writes out the rights of kingship on a scroll, places it before the Lord, and then sends everyone home, right? Saul then returns to Gibeah, accompanied by brave men, right? Whose hearts that God had touched, but some of the wicked men, if you will, openly despise Saul, refusing to bring him any gifts, and notably, Saul says nothing in response, right? He's calm, he's restrained, he's silent, he's not, letting their mockery get to him. So, let's see if this is going to be the makings of a long-lived king. So, let's go ahead and pause here real quick. We're going to pause and thank our friends over at Tamarack Garden, which I love so much. And I actually have placed 2 Tamarack Garden orders in the last week. So I guess I am single-handedly funding my own channel because I used my code Jackie Espada. So make sure to use my code Jackie Espada, save 10% at checkout with Tamarack Garden. So here we go. Love them, appreciate them, and here's the commercial.
Summer is an adventure and bugs are relentless. As an herbalist, I know you don't need harsh chemicals to protect your family. Here at Tamarack Garden, we've got you covered with natural sunscreen, mosquito and tick repellent that's even safe for your pets, a salve to draw out bug bites, and soothing sunburn cream, all made with the power of plants. Because we think summer memories should last longer than the bug bites. Tamarack Garden, protect your family naturally and eat your weeds.
Like I said, we love them, we appreciate them, and you should absolutely go to Tamarack Garden right now and start placing your order and save 10% by using my code Jackie Espada. Yeah, there's plenty of good things coming out too. I know that I am testing out a few things from Tamarack Garden. She sent over 3 tinctures, one of them being an antiviral, and it is very potent, but I can tell that it works. It is very good. So, and it tastes like it could be a lot worse tasting. I can tell you that too. And this one actually tastes pretty good. So be on the lookout for those. I don't know when they're going to be released, but you can absolutely at least get them and or have them on your radar. And you should be already using Tamarack Garden goodies on the regular. So if you're not already, make sure to place an order. Anyways, we are going to continue. We have some more. We have some more to read. We have 11, 12, and 13 still to read. And now, actually, you know, this is gonna be we're gonna see immediately. Obviously, Saul has mixed feelings about him, but you know, we have to set up the tension to see what's gonna happen next. But first victory is what we're going to see now. Saul's first victory. So this victory becomes honestly the moment Saul's kingship is publicly and enthusiastically confirmed. So let's see what happens. Chapter 11. Nahash, the Ammonite, came up and laid siege to Jabesh Gilead. All the men of Jabesh said to him, "Make a treaty with us, and we will serve you." Nahash the Ammonite replied, "I'll make one with you on this condition, that I gouge out everyone's right eye and humiliate all Israel." That's weird. Why would you want to gouge out my eye? What? Anyways, we'll get back to that in a second. Verse 3, "Don't do anything for us, or to us, for 7 days. The elders of Jabesh said to him, and let us send messengers throughout the territory of Israel. If no one saves us, we will surrender to you." When the messengers came to Gibeah, Saul's hometown, and told the terms of the people, all wept aloud. All right, so Nahash, that's such a weird thing. He has, you know, his terms immediately, you know, he'll agree to make a treaty with them if he gets to gouge out everyone's right eye. Obviously, it's to humiliate Israel, but that's so weird. That's so weird, man. But of course, the elders of Jabesh, they buy time. They buy time and they ask for 7 days to send messengers throughout Israel's territory, promising to surrender if no one comes to save them. So, of course, when the messengers reach Gibeah, Saul's hometown, and the people hear the terms, they all weep out loud. So everybody is freaking out before Saul himself can even hear anything. So let's see how Saul responds when he hears the news. This is chapter 11, verse 5. Just then, Saul was coming in from the field behind his oxen. "What's the matter with the people? Why are they weeping?" Saul inquired, and they repeated to him the words of the men from Jabesh. When Saul heard these words, the Spirit of God suddenly came powerfully on him, and his anger burned furiously. He took a team of oxen, cut them in pieces, and sent them throughout the territory of Israel by messengers who said, "This is what will be done to the ox of anyone who doesn't march behind Saul and Samuel." As a result, the terror of the Lord fell on the people, and they went out united. Saul counted them at Bezek. There were 300,000 Israelites and 30,000 men from Judah. He told the messengers who had come, "Tell this to the men of Jabesh Gilead. Deliverance will be yours tomorrow by the time the sun is hot." So the messengers told the men of Jabesh, and they rejoiced. Then the men of Jabesh said to Nahash, "Tomorrow we will come out, and you can do whatever you want to us." The next day, Saul organized the troops into 3 divisions. During the morning watch, they invaded the Ammonite camp and slaughtered them until the heat of the day. There were survivors, but they were so scattered that no 2 of them were left together. That's pretty intense, right? So Saul comes in from working in the fields, ask, why is everybody crying? What's going on? He tells them, and immediately the Spirit of God took control of him, and his anger burned furiously. I would hate to be on the receiving end of this anger, because what he does, and this is so weird, like what's up with like chopping up bodies and sending it out to people. I would think that after a certain time, if this is the middle of the desert areas, like, if you're sending pieces of dead body around, it's going to start to smell. It's going to start to rot. And, that just doesn't sound like a good time. I'm just saying. I don't know, you guys in the chat, what do you guys have to say? I'm interested to know what are your thoughts on dead bodies, like chopped up dead body pieces being sent out. It's gross. That is gross, okay? But, he sends it out as a fear, to basically fear them into joining them. To scare them into joining them. I don't know why I said fear them. That's so weird. Scare them into joining them, and of course they do. Saul assembles a force of 300,000 Israelites plus 30,000 from Judah, specifically counted at Bezek. So he sends back word, and he tells them deliverance is coming by the next day. And the men of Jabesh feel relieved. They tell Nahash they'll come out the next day, and he can do whatever he wants to them, essentially buying them just enough more time. So the very next day, Saul splits his forces into 3 divisions and launches a surprise attack during the morning watch. He slaughters the Ammonites until the day grows hot, scatters the survivors, so there's literally no 2 people left together. Honestly, that's pretty awesome, if you ask me. And this is Saul at his absolute best. So this is a real glimpse of what he could have been. Because ultimately, we know that Saul, he wasn't the king that Israel, like the last king in Israel kind of thing. So let's see how we wrap up chapter 11. This is Saul's confirmation as king, verse 12 of chapter 11. It says, "Afterward, the people said to Samuel, 'Who said that Saul should not reign over us? Give us those men so we can kill them.' But Saul ordered, 'No one will be executed this day, for today the Lord has provided deliverance in Israel.' Then Samuel said to the people, 'Come, let's go to Gilgal, so we can renew the kingship there.' So all the people went to Gilgal, and there, in the Lord's presence, they made Saul king. There they sacrificed fellowship offerings in the Lord's presence, and Saul and all the men of Israel rejoiced greatly." So, they won pretty handsomely. The people asked Samuel to hand over the men who earlier despised Saul so they could be executed, and Saul again refuses. He says no one will be executed because the Lord has provided deliverance in Israel. So he chooses mercy and unity over settling old scores. And again, this is another admirable moment for Saul. Honestly, chapter 11 is Saul's clear high point in this whole narrative. So where it's only going to go downhill from here, unfortunately, for Saul. So let's jump into the next chapter. Chapter 12 is where we are at now. And now Samuel is gonna, this is Samuel's final public speech. Samuel's gonna take a step back from leadership. This is, like I said, his formal public speech, defending his own integrity, reviewing Israel's whole history of cycling between unfaithfulness and rescue, and then a warning to the people and their new king about what faithfulness, or the lack thereof it, will actually cost them going forward. So here we go, chapter 12. This is Samuel's final public speech. Then Samuel said to all Israel, I have carefully listened to everything you said to me and placed a king over you. Now you can see that the king is leading you. As for me, I'm old and gray, and my sons are here with you. I have led you from your youth until now. Here I am. Bring charges against me before the Lord and his anointed. Whose ox or donkey have I taken? Who have I wronged or mistreated? Give me a bribe to overlook something. Or who gave me a bribe to overlook something? I will return it to you. You haven't wronged us. You haven't mistreated us, and you haven't taken anything from anyone, they responded. He said to them, the Lord is a witness against you, and his anointed is a witness today that you haven't found anything in my hand. So this is the first part of what he says, you know? He says, what he does first, he's like, look, I'm old, and he invites people to hold him publicly accountable. You know, bring charges against me if I wronged somebody. Did I, take a bribe for anybody? Did I wrong or mistreat anybody? And the people clearly say that, no, he's in the clear. You haven't mistreated us. You haven't wronged us in any way. You haven't taken anything from anyone's hand. And so Samuel then calls both and the newly appointed king as formal witnesses to his clean record. And this right here is a striking contrast to how the chapter opened. Samuel's own sons were corrupt, and yet Samuel himself, across a lifetime of leadership, has an entirely clean record. That just goes to show you, personal integrity and a failure to properly manage one's household apparently aren't one and the same. So it is what it is, and we see that Samuel is not a bad guy. Let's see what else Samuel has to say. This is chapter 12, verse 6 of Samuel. It says, Then Samuel said to the people, The Lord who appointed Moses and Aaron, and who brought you your ancestors from the land of Egypt, is a witness. Now present yourselves, so that I may confront you before the Lord about all the righteous acts he has done for you and your ancestors. When Jacob went to Egypt, your ancestors cried out to the Lord, and he sent them Moses and Aaron, who led your ancestors out of Egypt and settled them in this place. But they forgot the Lord their God. So he handed them over to Sisera, commander of the army of Hazor, to the Philistines, and to the king of Moab. These enemies fought against them. Then they cried out to the Lord and said, We have sinned, for we abandoned the Lord and worshipped the Baals and the Ashtoreths. Now rescue us from the power of our enemies, and we will serve you. So the Lord sent Jerubbaal, Barak, Jephthah, and Samuel. He rescued you from the power of the enemies around you, and you lived securely. But when you saw that Nahash, king of the Ammonites, was coming against you, you said to me, No, we must have a king reign over us, even though the Lord your God is your king. Now here is the king you've chosen, the one you requested. Look, this is the king the Lord has placed over you. If you fear the Lord, worship and obey him, and if you don't rebel against the Lord's command, then both you and the king who reigns over you will follow the Lord your God. However, if you disobey the Lord and rebel against his command, the Lord's hand will be against you as it was against your ancestors. So again, that's a little walk down history lane. Samuel walks through God bringing them out of Egypt through Moses and Aaron, but obviously forgetting God, and then were handed to their enemies, and then they cry out, they confess their sins, and then God has sent a few deliverers, and that came to rescue them each and every time. Then comes the turn. He talks about Nahash, and king of the Amorites, and that's when they change their tone and they say, "No, we need a king, even though the Lord your God is the king." And Samuel makes the theological stakes explicit. He says, if the people and their king fear the Lord and obey him, things will go well. But if they go against God's commands, the Lord's hand will be against you and your ancestors. There's literally, he puts it cut and dry there, The consequences going forward are laid out as conditional on obedience, as it always should been. Even with a human king now in place, God's own kingship still matters the most. So, is God king in your life? I don't know. You tell me. Let's see. Now we're going to wrap up chapter 12. Chapter 12. This is the sign and the final charge. So let's see what it says. Chapter 12, verse 16 says, "Now, therefore, present yourselves and see this great thing that the Lord will do before your eyes. Isn't the wheat harvest today? I will call on the Lord, and he will send thunder and rain so that you will recognize what an immense evil you committed in the Lord's sight by requesting a king for yourselves." Samuel called on the Lord, and on that day the Lord sent thunder and rain. As a result, all the people greatly feared the Lord and Samuel. They pleaded with Samuel, "Pray to the Lord your God for your servants so we won't die. For we have added to all our sins the evil of requesting a king for ourselves." Samuel replied, "Don't be afraid. Even though you have committed all this evil, don't turn away from following the Lord. Instead, worship the Lord with all your heart. Don't turn away to follow worthless things that can't profit or rescue you. They are worthless. The Lord will not abandon his people because of his great name and because he has determined to make you his own people. As for me, I vow that I will not sin against the Lord by ceasing to pray for you. I will teach you the good and right way. Above all, fear the Lord and worship him faithfully with all your heart. Consider the great things he has done for you. However, if you continue to do what is evil, both you and your king will be swept away." That's the final thing right there, man. Samuel calls on God to send an unmistakable sign during the wheat harvest. The wheat harvest is the time when rain simply was not happening in that region. Specifically, that's, specifically he's sending the rain during the wheat harvest to demonstrate what a great evil you committed in the Lord's sight by requesting a king for yourselves. And immediately the thunder and the rain start. And the people are struck with real fear of both God and now Samuel, because Samuel was the one that was, telling them about it. So they're terrified, absolutely terrified, and they start begging Samuel to pray for them. And Samuel's response is reassuring. It's reassuring rather than condemning. He says, "Don't be afraid. Don't turn away from following the Lord. Instead, worship the Lord with all of your heart." And he commits to keep praying for them himself and calling it a sin for him to ever stop. Which, I mean, is true now. Like, we should pray with, I think there's, what is it, a Bible verse that says pray without ceasing? Same thing. Like, we should be continuously praying all the time. And he's going to teach them the right way. His final warning to them applies to everyone equally, king included. It says, if you continue to do what is evil, both you and your king will be swept away. And we're going to see right now in chapter 13 that Saul immediately does not the right thing. So let's get into it. This is our final chapter for this evening. I know that we went through this very quickly, which is a good thing for sure. I've been trying to keep these Bible studies between an hour and a half. I did enjoy going the full 2 hours, but I know there's a lot of content on your Thursday nights, so I wanted to be mindful of your time and also of my time. So yeah, I figured these shorter chapters are more, or not shorter chapters, but shorter episodes are more enjoyable. You get the information, you get in, you get out, you go about your day and apply it, you know? So if you guys also enjoy this format, please let me know. If you want me to go back to doing, you know, long formats, I can. I don't know how enjoyable it would be for the both of us. So here we go. Chapter 13. Chapter 13, like I said, if chapter 11 was the high point, we're immediately going downhill. And this one, chapter 13, is titled Saul's Failure. So here we go. Chapter 13. Saul was 30 years old when he became king, and he reigned 42 years over Israel. He chose 3,000 men from Israel for himself. 2,000 were with Saul at Michmash and in Bethel's hill country, and 1,000 were with Jonathan in Gibeah of Benjamin. He sent the rest of the troops away, each to his own tent. Jonathan attacked the Philistine garrison in Gibeah, and the Philistines heard about it. So Saul blew the ram's horn throughout the land, saying, "Let the Hebrews hear." And all Israel heard the news. Saul had attacked the Philistine garrison, and Israel is now repulsive to the Philistines. Then the troops were summoned to join Saul at Gilgal. The Philistines also gathered to fight against Israel. 3,000 chariots, 6,000 horsemen, and troops as numerous as the sand on the seashore. They went up and camped at Michmash and east of Bethaven. The men of Israel saw that they were in trouble because the troops were in a difficult situation. They hid in caves, in thickets, among rocks, in holes and cisterns. Some Hebrews even crossed the Jordan to the land of Gad and Gilead. Saul, however, was still at Gilgal, and all his troops were gripped with fear. So, Saul is now an established king, and he selects 3,000 men for his own forces, splitting them between himself and his son Jonathan. Jonathan attacks a Philistine garrison, and Saul sounds the alarm throughout the land, essentially declaring open conflict. However, why is it the sons? First it was Eli's sons, and then Samuel's sons, and now Saul's son. Why are you picking fights with people you don't need to be picking fights with? Like, come on. The Philistines' response is overwhelming. They send 3,000 chariots, 6,000 horsemen, and troops as numerous as the sand on the seashore. Seeing this, Israel's own troops, they start panicking. And they start hiding in caves, and they start hiding in thickets, and rocks, and holes, and cisterns. Some even cross the Jordan entirely to escape into Gad and Gilead. And Saul remains at Gilgal, but his remaining troops are gripped with fear. and notably start to desert him. So let's see, what happens here, because honestly, if I'm put in this situation, chances are I'm probably going to give up. And Saul might do that. Let's see what he does. Chapter 13, verse 8. He waited 7 days for the appointed time that Saul had set. But Samuel didn't come to Gilgal, and the troops were deserting him. So Saul said, "Bring me the burnt offering and the fellowship offerings." Then he offered the burnt offering. Just as he finished offering the burnt offering, Samuel arrived. So Saul went out to greet him, and Samuel asked, "What have you done?" Saul answered, "When I saw that the troops were deserting me, and you didn't come within the appointed days, and the Philistines were gathering at Michmash, I thought, the Philistines will now descend on me at Gilgal, and I haven't sought the Lord's favor. So I forced myself to offer the burnt offering." Samuel said to Saul, "You have been foolish. You have not kept the command the Lord gave you. It was at this time that the Lord would have permanently established your reign over Israel. But now your reign will not endure. The Lord has found a man after his own heart, and the Lord has appointed him as ruler over his people, because you have not done what the Lord commanded." Darn it, Saul. How dare you? He waits the full 7 days that was prophesied over him. Back in chapter 10, Samuel said it, but Samuel doesn't arrive within that 7-day window. Saul's troops are deserting him, and he ultimately, takes matters into his own hands. So he brings the burnt offering and the fellowship offering, and he personally offers those himself. Something, if you guys remember, we spent many episodes going over these, but this is specifically reserved for a priest or a prophet, not meant for a king. So the moment he finishes with the offerings, Samuel arrives, and Saul goes out to greet him, and Saul's very first question is, "Dude, what have you done? Why?" And Saul's explanation is understandable on a human level, absolutely. But, maybe you shouldn't have done that. You shouldn't have done that, and Samuel's response is severe and final. He tells him straight up, he says, "You have been foolish. You have not kept the command which the Lord your God gave you. It was at this time that the Lord would have permanently established your reign over Israel. But now your reign will not endure. The Lord has found a man loyal to him, or found a man after his own heart, and the Lord has appointed him as ruler over his people, because you couldn't do what the Lord commanded." This is the pivot moment. This is the pivot point in Saul's story. One act of impatient disobedience. I mean, it's understandable. I get it, because the pressure is behind it, and, his life, essentially. But the permanence of his destiny is now gone. And the word used for his future replacement, a man after his own heart, or a man loyal to him in some translations, points directly forward to someone we haven't met yet, and we will meet: King David. King David is coming, and we're gonna see him be a man after God's own heart. So, unfortunately for Saul, but let's go ahead and finish out chapter 13. Says chapter 13, chapter 15 is where we are. Then Samuel went from Gilgal to Gibeah in Benjamin. Saul registered the troops who were with him, about 600 men. Saul, his son Jonathan, and the troops who were with them were staying in Geba of Benjamin. I don't know what it is. And the Philistines were camped at Michmash. Raiding parties went out from the Philistine camp in 3 divisions. One division headed toward the Ophrah road leading to the land of Shual. The next division headed toward the Beth Horon road, and the last division headed down the border road that looks out over the Zeboim Valley toward the wilderness. No blacksmith, could be found in all the land of Israel, because the Philistines has said, otherwise the Hebrews will make swords or spears. So all the Israelites went to the Philistines to sharpen their plows, mattocks, axes, and sickles. The price was 2/3 of a shekel for plows and mattocks, and 1/3 of a shekel for pitchforks and axes, and for putting a point on a cattle prod. So on the day of battle, not a sword or spear could be found in the hand of any of the troops who were with Saul and Jonathan. Only Saul and his son Jonathan had weapons. That's quite a turn. We go from winning on God's account to literally not even having weapons. You only have 2 weapons. That is quite the turn, and that it is what it is. It definitely points toward probably the downfall of Saul, and we will see that next time we are live for chapter 14, and it's a pity. It's a shame. It's a shame that Saul couldn't do what he was supposed to do, but of course it leads us to David and ultimately to Jesus, and I'd say that's a good thing. But that is our Bible study for this evening. Let's go ahead and pray before we get out of here. So let's do that first. Father God, thank you for another opportunity to come together to give you praise and thanks, and to be able to read the word. Thank you for allowing us to spend time together, and for being together as a community. Lord, I ask you to come right now and to send total body restoration to my grandparents and to everyone in this audience who needs it. Lord, I also ask you to go into each and every heart and home of everyone who is watching this live or on replay. Lord, I ask you to go into their lives right now, and whether it be financial or physical or mental, whatever it is, you know what their needs are, Lord. I know that it is already done in Jesus' name. Lord, I also ask you to continue to give everybody who's listening traveling mercies if they're traveling. Just send angels of protection to be around each and every one of them, and truly just be with them and let them know that you are there with them in whatever situation they're going through. Lord, as we go into the weekend, Lord, I ask you to also bless our president and his cabinet. Give them the strength and the wisdom to be able to lead us with your guiding hand. Lord, I also ask you to just continue to be with us and show us what it is that you want us to hear with each and every Bible study that we do together. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen and amen. I couldn't do this without you guys, so I appreciate you for being here. If you have not already, make sure to please hit that thumbs up, share this show out with a friend. If you guys were lurking throughout the entire show, go ahead and drop in the chat and say hi. Unique chatters are always a good metric on how we're doing. It actually lets Rumble know to push me out to more people. So appreciate you for being here. And of course, I have reached my unique chatter goal for the month, but the more the merrier. And like I said, we always enjoy having new folks here because, like I said, that's how we grow. So thank you guys again for being here. Make sure to shop this sponsors. So In His Word, Loaded Gun, and especially Tamarack Garden. We love each and every one of them. They are all fantastic. You can shop their codes. Jackie Espada for Loaded Gun, Tamarack Garden, and In His Word. All of those, that code works. I think it's 10% off at Tamarack and Loaded Gun, and then $10 off at In His Word. So, and like I said, I'm really excited because we're so close to potentially having our own Bible study for Overthinkers merch, and I'm just so excited. last night's Midnight Something Special, if you guys have not tuned in to any of those shows before or watched them on replay, I highly encourage you to do it because it is so much fun. It is always a great time to see what type of music you guys suggest and want to listen to. I always leave having felt more cultured because I'm able to, just kind of hear what you guys are digging and listening to. So it's always a fun time. Go back and watch the show last night. I did spend a lot of time today kind of going in and tweaking a few things. I realized that whenever we have a show that is rated by like a big accounts, and I have like a lot of people in the audience, I know that it becomes overwhelming to me when I have all of these requests. So what I did was I took it was 25 requests before. I pushed it back down to 20 requests for the show. I feel like that's a little bit more manageable and I'm able to, get through it. And we're not having a 4-hour long show. So I did that, and I, did some tweaking in the back end to make it easier for me to help reorder things, especially like if Rumble rants come through and those need to be populated into the queue. So just a few, cosmetic things here and there for the show and for Hooks and Harmony going forward. So I appreciate you guys for continuing to let me know and give me suggestions so that I continue to improve the website for you guys. I'm also working on a few other things as well on the side, like getting my Substack, in a consistent rhythm of writing things for Substack. And in fact, I actually just published an article this week about how I feel about the church. The church, needing to go to church and not needing to go to church to feel God. So take a read of that one. You can go to jackieespada.substack.com and you can read the article there. It is the very latest article. I know that I haven't gotten it out to you yet, but I'm still in the process of writing the Ruth article because I know that Ruth came and went like a few weeks ago and I haven't put out a Substack article about that yet. So I will do that. But yeah. There's just a lot going on, and I'm trying to stay up to date while also being out from my normal routine and schedule. But I appreciate you guys for being here and for hanging on with me and for giving me the space to be able to create and do what I need to do at the same time with dealing with my not dealing with, but helping my family out. So thank you guys again for being here. Love each and every one of you guys. If you guys haven't noticed by now, this is a pre-record. I had to pre-record this episode because I need to go down to Orlando tonight, and my dad's house is the time that the show would start is the same time that my stepmom would be getting home, and she's very loud and so she wouldn't understand that I need the quiet time to be able to do the show. So I pre-recorded this episode, so if you send in any rants or coffees or subscriptions or anything like that, I'll be in the chat so that, I'll see them. I'll read them live on the next show that we have. But I wanted to go ahead and thank you guys for constantly supporting, for sending in Cash Apps and Venmos, and honestly, you guys truly have funded the fact that I've been able to come down here. Without you guys, I wouldn't have been able to put gas in my car to get here, or have snacks on the road, or bring things like the money to bring things to my grandparents that they need, like peaches, and just I brought them a bunch of good organic foods when I came down here. So I wouldn't have been able to do any of that without you guys and you guys shopping the sponsors or anything like that. So again, I wanted to just tell you guys how much I truly appreciate each and every one of you. So thank you for supporting me. Thank you for supporting Cam. Thank you for just being here. So love you guys. God bless each and every one of you. And I will see you guys on the next one. I'm almost positive I will not be having a Hooks and Harmony this Saturday. It's my dad's birthday, and I don't really know, he's on call at work, so we're celebrating him Friday night, but also on Saturday, I'm probably gonna see if I can do something with him in the morning, and it'll bleed into the time of when Hooks and Harmony would be. So I'll keep you guys updated. If you guys haven't already joined the Telegram group in the description of this show, so that you guys can be the first to know any schedule changes or anything like that. But I love you guys. I appreciate you. God bless each and every one of you. And I will see you next time. Bye!